Welcome to the Accepted Authority, where we help you solve a common growth challenge. I'm Andy Marmont.
And I'm Greg Roworth.
And today we've got a great episode for you. We're going to talk about how do the most successful consulting firms position themselves digitally. So what are some of the things that the best firms that we've seen do to make them stand out from the crowd and attract better quality clients? Now, this is a discussion that potentially could have been going on for 10 years because we've both seen the evolution of how consulting firms do this really well, from the big ones to the really boutique ones. I'm not sure if you know, but consulting.com.au, every year they release a top firm list of all these different industries. So I've done some analysis with some clients, but also with that list, at least 50 firms that were right up there, and we wanted to share some of the findings, but also we wanted to share what we've seen as well, working with our clients around what the best ones do and how you can take your positioning, your messaging from good to really, really great. So maybe, Greg, we can start with, first of all, around what you've seen. What are the firms that you've worked with directly, but also the clients that you've worked with? How do they position themselves in a way that really makes a dent?
Yeah, well, positioning is a really important part of the process of marketing, and really being attractive to our potential clients. And so, as part of that equation, then who are our ideal clients? We need to position ourselves to them. And I see a lot of consulting firms, particularly on the websites, which is where we look, or their LinkedIn profiles. There's really no positioning. It's maybe what I would say is promotion, but not positioning. And positioning is about who are we positioned for? Who do we actually have value for? Do they know about us? So how do we communicate who we are to them and what we offer to them? What's our value proposition? And that's probably the next most important part of positioning, actually having a value proposition that communicates to our ideal client exactly why they should engage us. There should be no doubt. And I see on so many websites or LinkedIn profiles, it's about who we are and what we do, but it really doesn't actually communicate any value proposition in that process. Who we are, what services we provide, doesn't actually speak to our value. And I think that's the distinction that's important to make about positioning, is that we need to be clear about that value proposition so that our clients really understand, within 30 seconds, what our value is to them, and where, are we right for them or are we not? Are we, we don't want to be all things to all people.
Yes.
We can't be. So who are we right for? Who are we not? That's the position in the market we want to decide first, and then make that clear to our target market.
I love that, Greg. It's such an important distinction. I guess it's a bit like dating, isn't it? You wouldn't just walk in to a new date and say, you know what, the sort of person that I want to be with, here's a list of 20 things that I can offer. What do you reckon? Of course, they're going to say, no. What are you talking about? Sorry, it's a bit of a weird analogy, but I thought you used the dating reference a few times. I thought I'd bring it out there. So you're exactly right, Greg. All jokes aside, I think, to me, there's almost like a fear in professional services firms where they think that they're going to miss out on not attracting, all these different types of opportunities. One company I remember speaking to very vividly, and I challenged them a little bit on how they position themselves from their website. And the response was, oh, well, you know what? We've got 12 different industries we want to work with. I don't want to miss out on any of those. And I guess you look at the homepage and you think, well, it's so unclear. There's these big, broad statements that, that appeal to this, huge mission. And mission is fine. Mission is different to positioning, or it's a value proposition, or I call it a power positioning statement. So that's probably one thing to consider, that the companies that do that position themselves really well and obviously are super successful, they know their space and they're not afraid to own the people that they want to serve and the problem that they solve. So I guess an exercise for you at home is, if you can narrow if you can focus on one type of client cohort or person, one type of person, and think about the one major problem that you solve for them and what it results in, that's your position statement. You put that on your website, you put that on the top of your LinkedIn profile, you put that in any pitch, any marketing collateral, and you're going to guarantee yourself at least you'll get some inquiry, because that it's very clear. The last thing you want is this broad statement that attracts no one, or it attracts the wrong people. And we know how painful that is when we do some marketing and we get people that they're just not even in the ballpark, and it's just a waste of everyone's time. So yeah, what you said there, Greg, was fantastic. The first rule of these companies that were doing positioning really well is be clear on who you serve, be clear on the problem you solve. What's next for you? What are the other something else that?
Well, I think the next step then is how do you solve that problem, and that process needs to be really clearly mapped out. One of the things that as consulting firms we need to get across to our clients is that we know what we're doing. We know what we're talking about. We know how to solve their problem. So how do we communicate that in a simple and effective way? And what I've seen the top consulting firms do is that they all have a model of how they work. They have a diagram where they, very concise, easy to communicate way. A picture says 1,000 words. That's what they're doing with their models. We've got McKinsey 7S model. We've got numerous models that apply to, the way these companies do their work or the way they frame their value proposition. So the next step from the value proposition is, how do you map that out? How do you diagram that process out in how you work with clients in a way that isn't about the steps you take in the process? Pretty much every consulting process is the same. We do an analysis or a diagnosis, we then do a transformation, and then we do some implementation. There's no, it's not rocket science, but within each of those steps, we need to differentiate ourselves as a firm so that our potential clients understand why we're different, why they should use us compared to our competitors, and what we've got to offer. So when all of our competitors have a list of their services on their website, and we've got a diagram of a model of how we solve the client's specific problem, who are they going to choose? It becomes very apparent that there's a difference about how we work. That we've got a process that is proven and known to work, and that we apply that. So when our clients see that, compared to a list of services that really don't mean a lot to most clients, then we really stand out, and our value proposition is easily communicated.
I love that, Greg. Yeah, models so powerful. A quick story about how they can be. I was working with an innovation consulting company. They were struggling to really understand how to position themselves or how to just explain what they do. Anyway, I was showing them our signature system, which is basically a triangle. It's got 3 problems, 3 solutions, and the key milestones to do that, or the areas you need to focus on. And the more we started talking about that, and started talking about the problems in a presentation, our innovation consulting firm laid out and created the model. It was pretty simple. It was basically a chart, and it just showed the different milestones along the way. And the the client's client was able to then self-select and say, you know what, we're probably at this stage. And they pointed to the model, and that gave them then the clarity to say, oh, what, this is where, this is where you focus on, and therefore it's much easier for me to understand that than if you just said we do 7 different things. So bang on, Greg, you're totally right. Models are such a powerful way. And if you're thinking about how do we go about doing that, then, it's simple. If you want to go super simple, you can use a triangle. I mean, to me, I like triangles because there's 3 points. So you can usually summarize your approach in 3, but you've got I think there's 9 in your system, Greg, is it?
Yeah,
9?
Well, it's 3 phases, but each of those 3 phases are broken down into 3 steps. So nine steps ultimately, but the 3 by 3 matrix is another way to present, a model. There's also a model within that model that I have, which is 6 steps to execution. So that is about how do we bring a client from a stranger to a raving fan, going through the first point of entering the conversation with our clients, then enrolling them in ongoing communication, educating them, enticing them to a sales meeting, then engaging them on our first piece of work, and then escalating our relationship so that they ultimately come to love us and rave about us, and they enter or help us enter the conversation with our potential clients because they're talking about the great things we've done for them.
Yes, wonderful. Yeah, so definitely models is a big part of it. The other area that I've seen works really well from a positioning point of view is creating some humanization. So how do we make our business seem like a human company and not just a faceless company like all the rest of them? So really easy things to do is involve your team. You talked about mission and vision before. Why don't you talk about your vision and your mission on a website and in a 90-second video? Get the team along and get them talking about their view and their experiences and what it's like to work there and why they're so passionate about solving customer problems. And while you're at it, maybe bring in a couple of clients to talk about their experiences. And then all of a sudden you've got this business that actually affects humans, human people. There's a bit of an oxymoron for you. So I guess that's the idea. You want to really think about the best companies that I've seen, consulting firms do this. They all have a great video or a great way to explain what they do and how that impacts people. So consider adding in and how do you bring in your team? How do you bring in your vision? How do you bring in your clients? And the case study idea is part of that, or customer stories is definitely part of that. That's probably the fourth thing that I would look at. We talked about customer stories a couple of episodes back. So if you're interested in exploring how do you do that, then make sure you check out that episode. But what would you add to that, Greg, or what are your sort of view on how we create a connection with our firm?
Yeah, well, I mean, consulting is all about a human relationship. We don't work with firms, we work with people. And it just surprises me these days about how many consulting firm websites don't have any names of who runs the firm, who are the people in the firm. That to me, the nameless, faceless firm, you can't do that anymore. And, I think a lot of, people owning consulting firms undervalue what a website can do for them. And often I hear people almost make an excuse about their website and say, well, our website, we don't expect it to generate any leads for us. So it's more for credibility. It's more when people hear about us or they get referred to us, they'll go to our website and check us out. So it's about a backup credibility, which is fine in itself. But then, I look at some of those sites and think, well, if I saw this site, that would actually undermine any credibility. So, don't look at a website in the way most professional firms do it. I think, copying the example of how most people do a professional service firm website, a consulting firm website, you're actually going down the wrong path. And we need to be innovative here again. And you mentioned video. I think any website today that doesn't utilize video is really underutilizing the media. You're right. Having videos of the the owners, the staff, the team members, talking about their values. Why are they in it? Hearing the passion of why they do what they do. That's got to transcend any platitudes that we typically see on websites. Like we listen. I would hope you listen. Why is that something remarkable? So I see on so many firms' websites, we take the time to listen to your problems. Well, if you're not doing that, you can't be in consulting. So why even bother to mention? But even, but having people on there talking about how they've listened to their clients and what that meant to them when they were able to solve a client's problem and, the outcomes, and then hearing that from the client's perspective, hearing the client tell their story of the journey with the consulting firm and the outcomes that were achieved. That's pure gold.
Fantastic. So I reckon we've covered some key things there around positioning and what the most successful firms that we've seen. So really, it's about being super clear on who the target market is. It's being very clear on the problem that you solve. It's creating a human connection, and it's also using customer language as opposed to widgets and products. And if you can focus on in every interaction that you have, whether it's on your website, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's how you tell your story outside of this, say in a networking event, then you're gonna automatically raise the way that you are seen, because instead of when someone says, "Oh, what do?" You say, "Oh, I run an HR consulting firm." But if you said, "Oh, look, I help I help diversity and inclusion leaders upscale and improve efficiencies about people problems," something like that, then you're automatically going to have a conversation to flow from there. So anything else you want to add, Greg, that we haven't covered around this topic?
Well, you've mentioned LinkedIn, and I think this is again an underutilized resource we have, because as well as our website that people go to. If people hear about us, they'll often check us out on LinkedIn, or typically at a networking function when you meet people, you go and check out their LinkedIn profile. So I recommend we don't have a LinkedIn profile that looks like everyone else. It's not your CV. It's a marketing tool. So I think the best way I can describe how to approach this is, with our websites, with our LinkedIn profiles, make them client-centric, not focused on you. It's ultimately, as much as we, think self-promotion is about us, it really needs to be about our client, because our clients don't care about us. They care about their problem and the results they can achieve. So when we're client-centric and client-focused on our website, on our LinkedIn profile, we have an ability to connect and engage with them. So then they want to know more about us. But if we start with self-promotion, promoting us, then it's like, the dating situation or the party, going up to someone in a bar and saying, "Hey, look at me, aren't I wonderful?" That's the biggest turn off you can ever have. And that's what people do on their website and their LinkedIn profile. We don't realize that trying to make ourselves attractive, we're actually making ourselves unattractive and turning our market off. So client centricity is where we need to be.
Super a valuable message there. Yes, the LinkedIn is really the first step to a lot of the client research that gets done nowadays, as we've talked about, but we're reinforcing it here. Look at your own LinkedIn profile, not your company one, but your own LinkedIn profile, because they're going to look at there first. Then they're going to look at maybe your LinkedIn company, then they might look at the website. So make sure that's all really focused on your client. Great point, Greg. So I think we can wrap the podcast session up for today. Where can we find you online?
Yeah, well, on LinkedIn, just search Greg Roworth and you'll find me easily enough. And otherwise, check out my website at businessflightpath.com.
Great. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Andy Marmont, and our website is concurve.com.au. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time. It's been the Accepted Authority.
Thanks, Andy.